on the Borough Planning Commission. Could we please stand for a moment of silence? And in that moment of silence, could we please remember Jay Lewis, who was a longtime member of the Planning Commission. He passed away prior to our January meeting. I cannot remember the exact date, that I would like to, in our silence, please remember him. Pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a note here, this is not being broadcast this evening, am I correct?
We're still recording it, just for the purpose of the minutes.
Okay.
We're 3/4 of the way through getting the new AV system put together. They ran out of time today to finish, so they're going back tomorrow to get it all done. So we're still using that camera in the back, just for sake of the minutes. If it's good enough quality, we'll post it. If not, then we won't post that one. We'll get the next one.
And just to confirm that this meeting was duly advertised, the information was on the borough website in the required time to meet sunshine requirements.
Yes.
I reached the point where I'm checking it. Okay. Also, as a note before we get into our organization here, Nathan and myself were appointed by council to 4-year terms at their January 28th meeting, I think it was. So just those couple little housekeeping notes I had for myself here. Okay, since we did not reorganize in January, we are at this point looking at the organization meeting for the Planning Commission. We will be electing chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. At this time, I would open the floor to nominations for the position of chairperson. Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. For the position of vice chairperson, which is currently held by Tiffany Lynn, do I have nomination? Or are you doing?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a nomination, Tiff and Nathan. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And for the position of secretary, which Brad is currently holding, would you be willing to retain that position?
Yes.
Oh, tit for tat here.
I saw it happen. Ooh.
Okay, I have
That's just how it's happening.
I have a nomination by Tiff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have Annette down there with the second. Any other nominations? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question?
Yes,
I'm curious, because I don't see Brad taking minutes, which is usually what I attribute the role of secretary to. What does the secretary do for our body?
basically, he is here in that position, that he does not take the minutes. The minutes are taken by borough staff. But where we have plans and such that need to be signed by both the chairperson and the secretary of the planning commission, Brad is the one who signs in the position of secretary. Okay, no problem, Nathan.
During our work sessions, we took minutes.
Right, when we were doing work sessions, Brad was taking minutes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Just curious.
all right,
The other thing, Mary, I would add is that he would be third in line if
yes,
you two are not available for the
because we have no pro tem position.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for interjecting. Okay, moving on the agenda. Do I have a motion regarding the approval of the planning commission meeting minutes from our December 19th meeting as presented in your packet?
So moved.
I have a motion from Tiffany. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Annette. Okay, any discussion, any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, there are no zoning hearings, there are no engineer reviews, no demolition applications. I would like to state under demolition applications, with Holy Trinity moving forward with theirs up there. There was announcement made in church within the last several weeks that they have received the approvals that they need from the Diocese of Harrisburg to actually accept those properties, the property that was given to them. So what was stated then is in the spring they will be moving forward with that demolition. I just thought some information I had that I thought I would interject with the screen. So, okay. Action items. Ordinance 929 was an ordinance that was brought before Borough Council in September of 2021. And this had to do with rezoning the properties out in the East End. Those North 2nd Cedar Street properties. And it is actually tabled at the January 11th, 2022 council meeting. We had, at our November 16th, 21 meeting, approved it, recommended adoption to council. It has been tabled since January of 2022. And at this point, that is that area you are aware. We have been looking at whether we were going to or not, and what we were going to rezone it as. And I think what we're looking at is the comp plan has been complete. We will be moving forward with zoning changes, but this is still a piece that's sitting out there. So my thought is the best thing moving forward is to recommend to Borough Council to deny adoption of this ordinance, that we can have a clean slate moving forward. Because this would be a piece that, let's keep it all together. If we're going to make more zoning changes, let's do a comprehensive, here we come, comprehensive zoning change, not piecemeal it block by block. So that is why I brought this, I've had this sitting on my desk and thinking, what are we doing, what are we doing? So I brought it to Jessica and to Mark, and this was the direction that we felt we should go with this, to get rid of this. So what I am looking for is discussion for a motion from Planning Commission with regards to ordinance number 929 that has been tabled since January of 2022.
I think it's a good idea to keep it more comprehensive, like you said, Mary, and to deny it. So I'm willing to make the motion if everyone else on the commission agrees.
Okay, Brad has made a motion to request Borough Council to deny passage of ordinance 929. Do I have a second? have a motion from Brad, a second from Tiff. I spoke on this, okay? So any thoughts from the rest of you?
We kind of all did at that next meeting, had the map and
Mm-hmm.
seeing all the different areas, and this especially is one
It's
that
been
would
hanging.
be, yeah.
Okay, having the motion and the second, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. That recommendation will go to council. Will that be on for next week?
I want to put it on just to clear it off. Yeah.
It's been hanging too long.
Yeah, like you said, Mary, we want to revisit all this, and I think the ideas are still good. I know that way back then we talked about, you know, do we want to go downtown commercial, do we want to create a gateway commercial or a gateway mixed use zone? And I think all those were good discussions, and I want to pull those back out again, but let's just clear this one off the queue and get rid of it and get new ordinances in place.
Okay.
Now we have the comp plan, so we can really
Mhm.
look at that and align them.
When will hard copy of that be available, of the comp plan?
Maybe one. It was designed to be more electronic, so we can print out hard copies so we have them.
I think members of planning commission, I know I would prefer a hard copy.
I like the hard copy.
And I like colors.
Yeah, we'll get some found up, send that to you.
You know, what I have is the draft copy.
Yeah, we'll get the final one.
All right, thank you. We digress there a minute. All right, next on the agenda here is review of an ordinance to rezone 740 South 12th Street from light business to medium density residential. This is a property that when we did, I think it was that large zoning change at the end of 2019, this was one of the McGinnis properties at the end of 12th Street that had been zoned medium density residential. And the idea of changing the zoning at that time to light business was for it to conform with the rest of the McGinnis properties out there. And Mark, do you want to address why we're looking at changing this back?
Sure. When we started laying out the McGinnis tracts and looking at the usable land, we had several ideas for that parcel. One of them being a small parking area, it could be a small office space tucked up in there. And there's a whole bunch of things we've looked at that we could possibly maybe shoehorn in there and make use of it. And then we took a step back and looked at it and like, no, let's complete the street. Let's put a house back in there where it probably should be a house. And that way that neighborhood stays cohesive and together. The only thing that would be related to the business park would be 12th Street coming in as an access point into it. But sell that lot off as a buildable residential lot. So council has already authorized us to sell it. I would like to get it rezoned before it goes up for auction, which will be happening sometime this summer. So we'd like to go ahead and get that piece rezoned to medium density residential. It just fits. If you walk down the neighborhood and anything business park related right there would stand out just one number.
If you go out 12th Street, this is the wooded lot on the right-hand side, right before you get to Franklin.
You know what the dimensions of that lot are? It's at 0.32 acres, but do you have dimensions?
I can get them for you quick.
And are the setbacks, what are the setbacks when they're building? If someone can build a home in that?
I have to look it up. I don't know. It'd be similar to what's out there now.
I'm sorry?
It'd be similar to what's out there now. I don't know
Okay.
what the exact setbacks are. To me, it just makes sense to keep that neighborhood more cohesive.
My question to you, is it for one building lot, or is somebody coming in there and divided into 2 or 3 in the row homes.
I don't think you could,
No,
no,
No, you can't?
I think it's too narrow. I think it fits a single family.
Well, you could take the front entrance of the houses on South 13th Street
mhm.
and take them the opposite way. I'm just asking the question because it's gonna come up, somebody's gonna do it as an investment property, and then they're gonna say, is this restricted for one home? Or is somebody gonna come in here and want 3 homes?
I think it's deeper than it is
It
wide.
is. So the front yard is,
Yeah, it's deeper than it is wide, but does the front address, does it have to be on Franklin Street, or can the front
No,
entrance
it
be
would
on?
not be on
It would be
Franklin
on 12.
Street. It would be on 12.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Because Franklin Street does not extend. Franklin Street ends right there.
yeah, so it'd be a 12th Street
It
address.
would be 12th Street.
Just about 100 feet across. And the depth is about 136.
Mhm.
Just a question, I just wanna make sure somebody's prepared for this, because it's gonna come up. Yeah, technically.
Hey, Will, we ran into this on the property we sold on South 9th Street, that little one right off Avenue X.
Mhm.
And the person who bought that is putting townhomes in. And they will try to squeeze as many as possible in there to get as much as they can for their investment. I get it.
Also, is it restricted to, something that's a structure, or can somebody go and put a double wide in there?
Technically, they could.
This was the
That's just, because some people is gonna have a problem with that, because then it's gonna bring down the value of the homes there.
Sure. To zone it, anything other than medium density residential, we could be flagged for spot zoning, because that's the only residential zone adjacent to it. We're trying to expand the existing residential zone.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just didn't know, can you be more specific when,
The only way we could do that is because we still own it before we sell it, if we wouldn't put deed restrictions on it, but that gets messy.
yeah, I'm sure it does.
Does that lot also slope to the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. Not a huge great difference, but someone who knows what they're doing, can put a nice house in there and you can do like the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be really nice.
Yeah.
Or someone could turn it into something not so nice, which is just a nice area of town.
It is. It is. And that's true anywhere. I mean, zoning only goes so far to limit what can be done there.
Just questions I was
So
having.
good questions. It's-
Yes, they are. Thank you, Howard.
Always people looking for lots.
What's that?
Always people looking for lots in Columbia.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Do I have a motion regarding recommending changing of 740 South 12th Street from light business to medium density residential? Thank you, Nathan. So I have a motion from Tim, second by Nathan, to recommend to Borough Council change of the zoning on 740 South 12th Street from light business to medium density residential. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Now we've got Justin, who's been on hold for a month to do his, to do the presentation on short-term rentals. And Justin is part of Discover Columbia property and the property up on Locust Street.
Yeah.
600 block. It's all yours, Justin.
All right. Well, thank you for whoever printed out copies of the presentation. I appreciate it. And good to see y'all again. I think the last time I was here was maybe over a year and a half ago, June or July or something.
June of 21, 22.
Yeah.
It was June.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, first of all. I hope what I can share tonight is both encouraging to you all in terms of what you've allowed to happen in the borough in a constructive way, the economic impact we've been able to have. If you have followed, or if you go on Discover Columbia, you can see we track very meticulously, painfully at times, the first 12 months of economic impact and spending of guests that came and stayed at Freedom Home. The result of that, from an economic impact standpoint, was over $208 spent in downtown borough per guest, not per overnight stay, per guest, which is way higher than I thought. I bought a lot of people's ice cream. What can I say now? So after we were done tracking that, and because I have a passion to see this town grow, I thought I would share, as I know it will be a somewhat of a marathon effort to talk through eventually, and maybe modify short-term rental regulations or best practices. I thought I'd share 8 things that I've learned from this first year and a half. Some of them I've learned the hard way, I'll just be honest, and some of them have just been really exciting for us. And I thought on the Discover Columbia website, I'd share some other thoughts in terms of, I'm welcome to discuss it to whatever capacity is appropriate tonight in terms of should there be a capacity in the borough, what type of homes do I personally feel like, can be best fits, should there be some changes to the regulations. That I have my own opinions on that, but what I wanted to share were best practices that I have heard firsthand from guests, help them fall in love with our community, with our town, help them already start coming back. Some of them have even saved Zillow searches for Borough of Columbia now because they want to retire and move to Columbia when all said and done. So if we go through the packet, the first thing I outlined there, and please interrupt me or whatever degree makes it productive for you. I'd start by saying my overall desire is that the Borough of Columbia becomes the standard for Lancaster County short-term rentals. Meaning we don't just try and do it better, we try and do it the best. We try and make it an experience that every other small town starts saying, how are you guys doing it so well? And why are people choosing you over my town? Just like the guests who left last weekend said, we chose you over Marietta. They said, because you could actually walk to places. And in Marietta, we would have had to get in our car to go everywhere we wanted to go with our kids. So my whole desire in this is to share how do we do it best practices so we can do the best. The first thing that we found, and it is very much would be a limiting the amount of people who want to do SDR here, is meet guests in person. We do not do electronic lockbox. We do not do Nest check-in. You meet me or my wife or one of my staff. That's all me and my wife at this point. I walk you through the home. I share a tour of the history. I share about Columbia's unique history. I give recommendations or tips or insights on, here's where you park and here's where you can go and here's what's going on. So that one-to-one, and if you read the reviews on Airbnb, on Google profile, almost to a person, everybody says, that was so special. So let's do it different. Let's do it better. Let's do it special. So that's my first insight and feedback. It takes some juggling of schedules, but it's experience changing for those that are used to going to Airbnb.
Justin, you mentioned parking. How is that working with the off-site parking?
Just fine. I mean, people are either parking there. Sometimes I'll see their cars. Sometimes I'll notice that their cars are parked on the very busy Mount Bethel side of the Mount Bethel side of the street.
I was just curious.
Yes, I check in with my neighbors too, and I make sure that hey, if everything good and no one ever complains.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. The second item, in terms of best practice, I definitely think that any short-term rental that would be in the borough would have to have a designated place to promote other downtown businesses. It just makes sense, right? Why wouldn't you when you can? And it absolutely makes them have comments like, oh, we didn't get time to go here. Next time we call them, this looks amazing, we're gonna go do it. And I think that's just part of doing it right. The third thing, I personally don't think you should be saying you're quote unquote investing in our borough unless you are investing in the borough. So, I won't divulge the number, but I'll say it's a large number of gift cards that I've bought from local businesses. Some businesses I have gone to get gift cards and they said, oh, we keep meaning to, but we haven't. I said, well, I'm going to buy 10 as soon as you do. And they said, well, okay, I'm here next week. So even just that, like, oh yeah, I'm a destination business, even though I might be a coffee shop or a retailer, and you don't think of yourself as a gift card destination. So everybody gets a gift card. So we get 2 or 3, depending how big their family is or something. But I want them to go out and spend it. And, it's no newsflash that $10 to Burning Bridge Antiques is not going to buy something cool, but it'll get you in there to buy something, So I definitely think it should be a no-brainer and a kind of a mandatory, hey, you leave gift cards. Number 4, I think this is the most fun. I think if you've done the research I've done, and you guys voice concerns about STRs can dilute a local culture if done wrong. I think one of the ways we can keep Columbia in Columbia's short-term rentals is by getting everything from Columbia shops as much as possible. Can I tell a funny side story that has nothing to do with the presentation? So I had an interior designer just 2 weekends ago stay from Virginia, and we just finished renovating the 3rd floor of Freedom Home. And almost all of it came from like Burning Bridge, Soul Booth. You got some from Vicious Circle, like some of it's kind of vintagey in the flair. And she was going on about, oh, this is so good. I mean, I can tell stuff from anywhere. She's like that's and I don't know, she listed some furniture brand, and I can tell that's a solid antique from, she listed some era, and she's like, oh my goodness, did you cover that? That looks like a 60s blah, 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 and said something. Where did you get that? I said, oh, that was a Wayfair purchase. Which is kind of funny. But, so she picked the one thing. Sometimes you just got to get a Wayfair, but when possible, all of my other stuff is from our local shops. So I just thought that was funny. But I think it always is a conversation piece. People are like, where's that? And I was like, hey, that's a Burning Bridge. You should go get your own. That's from Strange Days. So, the 5th best practice that, again, you might think, well, Justin, this is no-brainer, but if you've traveled Airbnb or VRBO, there are not always guest books. Like, guest books are so key to people flipping back through. I see the pictures. Sometimes people take pictures and leave them in. And so people are switching back through and reading about, oh, they went to this place and said this place was cool. We should go check that out. And it's just super fun for the owners to read comments that people make. So I know it sounds weird, but I think that should be a best practice. You have to have a guest book.
So Justin, I can tell you that when we travel, I love to go to Airbnbs. I have 2 daughters that feel like a hotel, even a high-end hotel, is disgusting. They just don't enjoy it at all. They will not do it. They travel a lot. They use Airbnbs all the time. Mm-hmm. We are guest book readers and writers. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely fascinating to flip back through and see. Mm-hmm. I'm always like, do I know somebody? Do I find something that do actually stay here? But their comments are very telling. Mm-hmm. And they had this great experience at this park. The next day I'm going out to that park. Mm-hmm. I want to go see what happened. Yeah. I think it's great. It's a great way to see how other people saw it.
Yeah. No, it's fun and it's helpful. Yeah. To your point, to the next traveler. The 6th kind of best practice is writing personal notes to your guests. You might not think that's a big deal. It absolutely is different than everybody else is doing it. Yeah, am I the best time you should know? Do I write a personal note based on whatever we've talked about prior to them coming? Absolutely. Hey, I'm so excited that Johnny's celebrating his birthday here. So glad that you're going to have your first look it's your bride in our backyard, that's so special to us, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just feels personal. And again, when you read their reviews, I think I put them there, like, they absolutely write in their reviews, so thoughtful of you to leave that note for Johnny or for the groom. So, I know you can say, well, some of these things just are hard to regulate, but I got ideas on that too. I definitely think there should be, if you're going to open a door to be an STR owner here, you need to make a commitment to personally writing them. And these are all real photos from my photos. They're not, this is what happens when you get here.
And those are notes you put there before their arrival?
Yeah. So it's also fun because when you're giving a tour, by the way, I know I say tour weird, grew up in Ohio, it's a tour or whatever you want. Tour is when you walk through showing people what's there. Okay. What are you saying? That you already have something out there on the table ahead before they got there is like also special for them. Oh, you're cleaning people just in practice and then you're opening the door.
You were expected.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said. That's well said. That's a great one line. That's a good marketing one. You're expected. Number 7, one benefit that across all communities, actually, if you look in the research, is that STRs increase the curb appeal of a community. These people are coming and going every few weeks. Curb appeal is everything. You know, they're window shopping on whatever platform they're looking, and so you've got to keep it looking nice. So I just think that can help the borough. It can help perceive home value, and it obviously helps the. Sometimes you can get overly focused on inside and you go, oh man. I mean, I've been guilty of, oh, they're coming, I forgot to sweep the back walkway. I run over. So I just think outdoor appeal matters. And I'm not sure what capacity I shared it before, but I even had people on Facebook tag Freedom Home and say, look, some dog dookied on your front steps. That looks horrible. And they were kind of upset. And I drove over, cleaned it all up, sent them back a picture and said, instead of like getting mad that they were lowering at my spot, I said, thank you so much. I wouldn't want anybody walking by, you know, or having a first impression. So you can do that when it's an STR. It might not go over so well if you text Sammy's mom or something and say, all right, clean up your front porch. You know? And then the last best practice that I think is super helpful, it's how we got all of our data in the first year. We continue to do it as follow-up if we can. Find out what was good, what was bad, what could be improved, and again, I'll be transparent. I've learned the hard way. I thought the new mattresses I got were enough until someone came through and said, yeah, it was great, the beds were comfy, but to be honest, I expected like a 3-inch pillow topper on top. That's usually how comfortable I want my bed. So I got 3-inch pillow toppers on all the beds. Like, I don't know, if that's you expect to go to an Airbnb and have a wonderful, luxurious thing, and my mattress wasn't good enough. Okay, well, raise the bar. Like, listen to their feedback. So, you know, I think it's really helpful to hear their feedback. My little bonus tip, just for fun, because I'm in web design, and I don't know, when you say 8, you got to deliver the extra. So my extra little tip is making guides based on your property in your town on how to spend their time. So many people planned out their visit based on our guide before they even got here. And that's a kind of an instant automated thing they get. They always ask questions, wait, we can really tour the dungeons under market? Yeah, you want me to set that up with Chris? Great, what time is good for you? Saturday, 10:30? He'll be there waiting. You know, that's the kind of best that we can do at the borough. The alternative is they're like trying to figure out how to get hold of this thing and do this thing, but come on, I'm the host, I want you to follow the road of my town. So, and that's kind of my extra guide. They're not hard to make, they're not hard to implement. You know, my last little slide there, which I really think would be my mantra and my sort of, is there one more on there? Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. I think, you know, I don't want to necessarily get into some of the other caps and geographic areas and house types that those are on a little blog post that I have on Discover Columbia. But for the purpose of this meeting, I definitely wanted to, again, I say thank you, share some things I learned, and I know in some marathon capacity you guys are walking through or can be confronted with kind of SDR stuff. And my encouragement to you, the support, I definitely want you to know, you have for me is, I appreciate us doing it carefully and doing it better and being cautious but not locked down, so to speak. I think there's a way to do it well, and hopefully the last 18 months of Freedom Home has set some type of a standard. You guys can at least bounce ideas off.
I think you've set a very high standard.
Great. Thank you.
Justin, I really like the planning guide idea. After number 8, the bonus tip sending the planning guide, that's an outstanding idea.
Is that just because it's the bonus? Is that just because it was the bonus thing?
Yeah, okay. Going back to number 8, what would make them come back? Is there anything that you can focus on that some of your guests over the last 18 months have said would bring them back, other than your Freedom House? What would bring them back to Columbia?
I would say,
Put you on the spot.
well, actually seasonal different opportunities are a big reason they say they're going to come back. So they'll come when it's cold and they couldn't kayak, for example. Oh my goodness, or I can hike or enjoy. Sometimes they'll get a bad weather stint, so those types of things. Sometimes people come, not often, but sometimes people come like a Saturday to Tuesday or Sunday to Wednesday. They're kind of working around maybe a work holiday or getting home. And not a lot of our places are open like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Someone left a little review about.
I think you're getting me wrong.
I'm
What
sorry.
are the things that actually are bringing them back?
Oh, okay.
Not the bad things that they've written to you, but actually, what are the things that are bringing them back to Columbia?
I
Sorry.
can understand the season, bring them back.
Right,
because
as
the
far as
things they
kayaking.
went through
Yes.
in a particular season.
People say that they didn't have time to visit all the things and do all the things. Now, my average guests are only staying 2 nights, so it's usually like a Friday to a Sunday. And so it kind of just gives you a Saturday to see things. So they're coming back to see more. Like maybe they did the kids thing, but they're going to do the antique things. That's definitely a reason they're coming back. They're coming back, at least to my place, because now it's getting to be hey, we always had this family gathering, but we've had to kind of work it out in a space that wasn't that conducive to 2 or 3 families getting together, and this space has been wonderful, so it's just easy. I was surprised at the amount of people that say they come back for like the kitchen. Like just the kitchen and the outdoor kind of flow and space. Apparently some of these just have like very kitchenette-ish things and you can't even make pasta or make eggs in the morning for 6 or 8 people. So I think the kind of amenity of that home in particular. The one guy has been back 4 times just because he lives in Virginia, and there's nowhere around there that he can get on a bike trail and ride nonstop. And he even said, "Can you just give me a lesser rate? I'm gonna come back a lot just to ride the trail." No problem. So I definitely think people are coming back because they appreciate this setting, this very unique setting we have.
Are you seeing more families or businessmen, businesswomen?
Families, like family gatherings, kind of weddings. A lot of the local kind of wedding venues. This is a group. I don't know. We probably had maybe 6 brides do their pictures and stuff. I haven't had a lot of people surprising to me. Maybe there's not a lot of Spooky Nook stayers for tournaments. There's not a lot of hey, we're going to Hershey Park. We want to stay. They're equally surprising. There's multiple people who go to Sight and Sound. They're like, oh, this is great. Really? Sight and Sound's like a 25-minute drive if you speed a little bit. But it's kind of away enough that they can go to the thing and then take a breath in this cute little town.
Do you ever do any kind of marketing for all the events that are happening from January to December that are happening in Columbia, and maybe highlight the ones that are well attended or that have more activities going to that they have pamphlets that they can take with them and say, hey, we want to come back for this date? or is that something that's down the road?
Yeah, no, we have, so I made my own, rack cards for the car show. We made our own rack cards for the, oh my goodness, the, I didn't, Chris gave me it. What am I trying to think of? The, it wasn't Bridge Bus, the craft show? Does the big craft one? I forget what they called it, where they it was in Market House, and there's a couple of them. They brought the antique people in.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
The
did
Makers Market.
appraisal.
Yeah.
But do you do a whole calendar that like lists them all so that they can take that calendar with them? And then say, hey, circle dates that I want to come back for this.
No, that's a great idea. So the calendar of events on Discover Columbia's website is second to the borough. It's the most visited page about Columbia. So all the organizations are putting this
Sometimes
up.
I feel
But
that,
that's a great idea.
sometimes I feel that people want that paper
Yeah.
in front of them. Especially if it's older
That's a
people or
great idea.
retired people, they're not on their phones like the younger
I'll write that
generation.
down.
And
Well, I'm gonna forget if I don't write it down.
but I'm just thinking that's something that we would pick up if we go out,
Yeah.
something that's, an event that's coming on, like the
upcoming
Halloween
year.
time. At Halloween, the tours, the ghost tours are something that's different that not every town has.
It's
But I'm
great.
just saying, it's just something that you have there all
Yeah.
year round for them to pick up and take with
That's a
them.
great idea.
And the ghost tours are just across the street.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. That's a great idea.
Thank you so very much for your care in all you do with this, and not only in promoting and doing such a great job with your Ed Freedom Test, but promoting Columbia the way that you do, like just your touches with the gift cards and rack cards and
Thank you.
sharing the history. That's really, really important.
So I have another comment. I think that you should have a class, if anybody wants to have a short-term rental, that they need to go through a program that you have, because it's similar, then you won't have so much friction with people wanting short-term rentals. Because that's a
This
huge
is-
thing, it's a negative for me, but what you've done is, like you said, it's the best. And everybody else just, oh, get in on a lockbox, come in and do this. And neighbors are nervous about strangers coming in, especially if they have kids living next door. So I'm saying, your approach, just even meeting them there, most of the times you can tell when you meet somebody that you have a little more confidence in it's going to be a good visit or not. But sometimes landlords or owners don't ever meet them.
I agree.
So maybe that should be something that could go in, that maybe go through a program or something before you seriously decide to do this, because
Yeah, like
who
Mary
knows on your
said,
program?
Freedom Home, that's definitely setting a high standard.
Yeah.
But it should be emulated, and there should be a way to incorporate it, you know, when allowing a person to utilize their property in that way.
And Brad had something for something.
I just wanted to ask Justin how many rooms were in the house.
There are 5 bedrooms. There's 15 rooms.
Wow.
It's a 3,300 square foot home. And I, as you guys think through as borough, as planning commission, as zoning, like things to be spent, I absolutely think that there should be a, if you will, a non-governmental requirement or stipulation or oversight committee that reports into or vets people wanting to do SDR, so that community is saying, hey, is this partnership in the best interest of all of us? And I'm very interested in heading that up, as a Discover Columbia, as a partnership of local business owners. And
I have one more comment. I think it's really, really important what you did in check with the neighbors. The neighbors want to know that you're concerned about their well-being.
Sure.
And for you not to engage in that, I think you engaging in that is giving them confidence of this is a good place.
Yeah.
Because most people don't care what the neighbors think.
Yeah, they all have my cell phone.
I know, but I'm just saying that's something that,
Yeah.
it's important, and you nailed it, that's great.
If you had been in some of our meetings over the past years about STRs, your head would spin about the conversations that we've had and the problems that we've had and the neighbors that have come in. This is a class act. Tiffany, my wife Tiffany, and I have an older couple that live in Columbia. Actually, it's still technically Columbia, but they live out towards in the St. Anne's area.
Okay.
And their families in Virginia, Philadelphia, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But for all of the birthdays and all of the holidays, they have people come in to a certain short-term rental here that I won't mention, and they don't get any of this. The keys left it, I think, in a mailbox or in a lockbox. There's no one to greet them, and we've gone to birthday parties and such there, and the landscaping is, they enjoy it. I don't know why, but the landscaping is atrocious. The inside is from 1960, and there are no rack carts. There's nothing to tell you anything about Columbia, and no one greets you, and no one says thank you when you're done, other than receiving, I guess, your check in the mail.
And I know that was a big concern when we talked about the ordinance itself, that someone has to be on site. Remember, you wanted either the owner or at least someone from the tenant type company, but preferably the owner, what he does, the way it should be. That should be done.
Yeah. I think we can elevate, I think we need to elevate the standard. If we're going to be memorable and unique, and stand out for sure.
So do you see us needing to change the areas in which this would be allowed, to expand? Because right now it's a very limited area. And I can tell you one of the reasons that area was kind of zeroed in on, because we were looking at the fact that we were looking at single-family detached properties. And once you get out of that area that we did designate, there are very few single-family detached homes until you get into like the uptown area where you have mainly the ranch style homes. You know, there's some two-story homes up there. But until you get uptown, you're not seeing, you know, the single family, and that was one of the reasons there. You know, do we need to look at allowing detached homes?
Semi-detached homes.
Mm-hmm.
My personal opinion is yes, but that doesn't mean that it's this blanket
Right.
statement. So I think if you look, so I kind of researched some other small towns similar to us now. One is in Oregon, one's in Washington, one's in Colorado, so they're not all in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And I've certainly watched and measured like why Lancaster's failed and why they cracked down on regulation, which is why, you know, if you go to Discover Columbia, there's, you know, for example, I think that we should start by setting a limit of even just the total potential. That number's 20. That's based on our population. It's based on a lot of research and data. But I also think that some of the best opportunities in Columbia are semi-detached. That I think it should be more a question of where is the home located, as in like what's it local to, central to, accessible to, walkable to, as opposed to just does it fall in a particular block.
Because in essence, yours is a semi-detached.
It is, and like our variance was approved based on it was built as a standalone single home, and then the other one was built next to it, and so it technically has a shared wall, but not really.
Right.
But I also think there are some incredible, like, not to take too much, but think about some of these beautiful homes that have become 2 units, if you will, next to each other. Like even even some of the ones in the approved section of Focus Street would still have to go through variance because they're now two. Imagine if the owner owned the one on the left and he was trying to do a great STR on the right. I think that's a beautiful situation.
Now you're up against off-street parking.
Right, and so
And that's a huge thing for a lot of people.
again, I think
You lucked into it up there that you had something within walking distance,
Mhm.
and then the cemetery is across the street, which is
Mhm.
very busy. But when you do a semi-detached, everybody's looking at, they have their reserved parking space out front, so you better not take mine.
again, I think it definitely, it's difficult to make blanket, hey, this is what's going to be for everybody. So I absolutely think there are case by case, more just situations. There's really good documented research on what should be the limit per block. So like right now, as your ordinance stands, you can have 8 on that little block of Oak Street across from the park. I don't think that's great. I think there should only be 2 on a block, and that's what all the research would support. So I think our kind of boundaries deserve a little bit of another look. But I also think it can be done in such a way that doesn't place then this exuberant burden on zoning in planning and zoning to be the only filters. I really think there can be a first step, third party, hey, is this good? That then that party presents to you guys how we feel about it based on some shared and agreed criteria. Like, if you're not going to agree to do this, I don't even think they should be talking to you. Total personal opinion.
Maybe we should bring up the standard of the Airbnb that are in town up close to your standards before we go ahead and look at any others, possibly, and then maybe it'll get a little better approval rating. Is that allowed to be?
May I interject?
To help us do this.
I was just wondering, Justin, some of the things that you have in this booklet, have you done any research on the laws as far as what's requestable of these STR owners as opposed to what's actually enforceable, in here? Because I think everything in here is great. I'm just wondering how much can we request them to do, but they just say, I don't want to do it. And how much is actually enforceable by our laws and our wondering.
That's a great question that I wouldn't be the expert to answer. My understanding would be that some of these best practices can't be the law of denial or approval. But on top of just passing the law or the ordinance rules that you have, there can absolutely be a local enforcement, oversight of following the best practices. Just like in a business, you can't shut them down maybe for not cleaning their toilet or, not being a mess when you walk in. But as a local entity, you can certainly have things like, hey, if you're a business in a historic district, this is what it needs to be like, which you kind of do. So the legality or the enforcement absolutely is not my area of expertise, but I think presenting the expectation is just a very strong start.
Just in this group you're talking about that would kind of counsel persons that would want to get in doing a short-term rental. Would you see that group receiving those people to counsel, mentor, whatever you want to say, that if someone were to come into the borough in here and say that we want to do this, would you look at the borough to be referring them to this counseling group? Making a recommendation that they discuss with you before coming to us? Is that how you would
Yes.
be able to contact or reach out to those persons?
Yes, I think that to me it kind of starts high level. If the borough says, we acknowledge SDRs can be economically impactful, grow our tourism, grow our local business base, beautify our homes, increase home values, because all those things are true. Then, I feel like the question is, okay, if someone says, hey, we'd like to do an SDR, I absolutely think the suggested first line of their evaluating whether it's a good choice for them is talking with, I mean, Discover Columbia is it's a private owner, it doesn't receive state funds, it doesn't receive borough funds, and we actually would be willing to even say, we're not trying to do other SDRs. The other SDRs in the community are not competitive with us. We have one very special, that's all we want to do. We just want to set the standard. And so we would absolutely be a willing party to be the redirected source and say, hey, we've gone over these are, borough supported, proven best practices. I mean, we've counseled some people trying to get into SDRs saying, hey, if you're not willing to do it best, just trust me, it's going to be an uphill battle to get through planning and zoning. So
you would see this as kind of comparable to a first-time home buyer program.
sure.
Something on that order only for STR.
Sure, because I think we would want to coach them to do it well. Like, it's only in everyone's best interest if they do it with excellence.
Mary, what seems to sometimes come up is people are coming in and investors are coming in here and buying properties and not telling you what they want to do with them, and then they're coming in and say, well, I'm going to do this, and now they need a variance or an exemption, and now they're upset because they can't move forward because they didn't do their due diligence ahead of time, and that's where the issues are becoming a problem.
But at least at that point when they would come in and look for that they would, at that point, say, hey, if you're really serious about this, if you would want some advice on how to move forward as to what the borough's looking for, possibly speak to these people who would be able to let you know how they went through it and what the borough's looking for.
I think a legally enforceable one bottom line that will filter out 70-80% of the people that are coming to you is that to operate an SDR, you need to either be a local business owner or a local homeowner in our borough. Bottom line. Just that's it. I mean, it's not about your management company being local. It's about you being a local business owner or a local
You're invested in the town.
Exactly.
Mark, do you know how many short-term rental licenses we have right now?
Say 4.
Great.
So the one down on Front Street, yours, and we have the one up on 1100 block, yeah.
It's one on 4th Street.
I can tell you that we're relatively sure there are many more than that. It's just, we're still trying to ferret them out and get the illegal ones.
On 4th Street there between Walnut and Chestnut.
Yes.
Is that where you're talking?
Yes.
I thought that.
I don't know that.
That's a junior apartment building.
That's an apartment building now?
The first one off of Walnut on the left-hand side.
No.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to take the time to
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate your willingness to listen.
each of you potential homeowners.
No, I had Eric's got his hand up back there.
First of all, I appreciate you using the word standard. That was also my campaign, make Columbia the standard. And I agree with you 100% on that. We can be better than everybody else. But I believe that short-term rentals should be available to anybody in Columbia. I don't think it's fair for municipality to say to one person, you have an opportunity to make money, but you don't. So limiting the number of STRs on a block, designating areas of town that can and can't be, I have a problem with. Secondly, I have a problem, because it is a business, of municipality regulating that business. Now, what I would recommend is there be a STR association, whatever, kind of like the MAC association. You can be part of it and you can share your winning ways. The fact of the matter is, a good short-term rental, like yourselves, will become in demand. A poorly run short-term rental will fail.
Yeah.
So even if it overpopulates for a short period of time, the ones that aren't good and successful will go back to homes.
Yeah, it's possible. I think, so there's a lot of like work and investment that goes into turning a property into a short-term rental, like even just like the fully furnishing of it, for example. So if someone say on, I don't know what street, but not walkable to a park or a brewery or something, says, hey, I want to do a short-term rental. I get that in theory, we can say, sure, if you agree with these best practices and some such, like you're in. The reality for that person is going to be they're going to spend a lot of money fixing up something that just based on how people do E&B is very unlikely to succeed. And then you have all of that. Like you went through a lot of processes, maybe there's a lot of oversight, they made a lot of investment, they had really high hopes, and then, man, B&B is not easy. Like,
Right.
So, maybe the process itself vets out the people that, hey, if it is just open, when they actually get down to the brass tacks of what's it cost to invest, what's it cost to run, what kind of time do I have to keep juggling my schedule because they got caught in traffic and now they're not going to be here till 4:30, not 3:30, and
Right.
So
Right, absolutely.
yeah,
I look at like, I'm not gonna say Manor Street per se, but the area out Manor Street with all the single homes especially. If the drone training center becomes a reality, that would be in my opinion, a high draw and give people in that area the opportunity to make money off of their investment.
Sure.
So I don't want to limit, and I don't want to say to one person, yes, you can, and no, you can't. I don't think it's our position to do that. But I do agree with the concept. And I agree with what you said earlier. The only way you can be successful is if you're meeting a minimal standard. And you're saying set a standard, but I'm saying it has to be a minimal standard. You have to have your grass cut. You have to have your property visually in good standing, because people won't use it. So that at a minimum keeps to our minimum standards as we expect our citizens to be. So I'm all in favor of short-term rentals, and as far as I'm concerned, it can be everywhere. That's extreme, but it's not that nobody's going to flip over tomorrow and all probably be short-term rental either.
Yeah. Yeah. Everywhere, but also meeting standards. Like,
Right.
So that there's not a third floor room being rented as an Airbnb.
Right.
Just,
Well, we have laws though to protect us from that.
Right.
Just like, I say make everywhere available to short-term rentals, but not everywhere has off-street parking. So just by our existing ordinances, there's some areas that would be not available. You know what I mean? But to limit, that's why I have a problem with it. Say you can, you can't. I just don't think that's a borough's position to take.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. To be continued. All right, next.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, next on our agenda here is the zoning ordinance text amendments for the McGinnis property. And Mark, did you want to go through these? I know these were on our list of to-do legislative wise. And, I kept being told, when we get the subdivision, when we get the plans done, then this will come to us. So I assume that the subdivision plans are just about together.
We're working on it
Putting
now,
all the
so I'll split that order. We want to get this in place so that when we put the subdivision plan together, we can use our own code.
Thank you, because I kept being told it was.
No, it's the opposite of that. We want to get in place, and also to say, tonight's not necessarily looking for action, just more of a discussion item among us to say what really truly works out there and what doesn't. Some of the comments that you've heard throughout this process, which again started in May of 2020, believe it or not, is the residents out there understand that this has been zoned as a light business or light industrial for a very long time. They knew something eventually would come there. Because the borough is the one now owning it and at least starting the development process, we want to make sure that we are getting the best value for this investment while still protecting the integrity of the neighborhood. And that truly is what we want to do out there. I've had metal foundries contact me and say, 40 acres of developable space, I could put a fantastic factory in here and create all kinds of jobs. I'm like, not, you could. There's a part of it that says, wow, it'd be great to have that back here. It's just not there. That's not the right location for it. Some of the initial plans had a rail spur coming off the rail line, bringing in heavy industry in that area. We're like, no, that's not really what that space is good for. So we're concerned about noise. We're concerned about 24/7 operations out there. We want to look at landscaping and buffering and lighting and do things well. So when we did the initial evaluation on is this a viable project that we can do there, Rick Jackson from ELA Group put together that list of recommended updates to the zoning code, which is, I don't know what page it is in your packet, but it's listed as recommendations from the Guinness Airport Site Inventory Analysis Report. Yeah, so those are the bigger planning guidelines that we put together, saying I think these are some changes that will make this site more buildable, I'll say, or get the best value out of it while still meeting those goals.
And those bulleted items there
Yes.
are directly out of that stuff.
Yes.
One of those bulleted items here, it says the prohibition of parking. So as of right now, parking is prohibited because it was an airfield?
Parking is prohibited as a principal use on a lot. So I think we want to say if there is the ability to have a lot where the only principal use on it is parking, that can happen.
But that principal use as parking would be combined with a business out there.
Okay, so if we jump into the future and the reality of what is coming with drone technology happens, one of the opportunities out there was call it an airport or a vertiport. It'd be a destination where you go and you park your car and you get into a drone and you fly to another location. It's very possible that one of the subdivided parcels out there will be nothing but a parking garage. So we want to make sure that parking as a principal use out there could be allowed should this truly become what we think it can be. So that's just the one change we had. I will say, when we started this and we looked at this, and Mary, you I'm guessing you helped with this, when the light business was put together, it really was well done. I mean, there's not a lot of use changes that we looked at that really needs to happen out there. I think a few of these little tweaks and adjustments, but I think it was set up very well for what we're trying to accomplish out there. So some of the ones we look at are some of the setbacks.
Right.
To reduce that down to 30 feet, I think is good. We want to increase the maximum building coverage.
And that's pretty standard.
Yeah. To allow a more dense use in certain areas, I think that's going to work well. One of the ones that has come up several times is, should we allow housing out there and some form of housing? Environmentally, the tests and everything we've done we've met all the standards for non-residential uses out there. But I always laugh at zoning, it's so bizarre in how we do it. You can't have residential out there, but you can put a hotel out there. So I don't know if we want to encourage a lot of residential uses out there, but I think short-term stays, a hotel kind of facility out there,
Like a suites kind of place.
like a little boutique hotel, especially if, you know, all the potential uses that we think may come out there would work out. A place to come, you can stay right there, you know, and go to training, go to visit a business, whatever else you need to do, you're right there. But I'm not sure we want to change the residential requirements in the zone.
Smaller version of Rockledge.
Exact model we've been eyeing the whole time. Seriously, I think that is the A game of how to do these campus-style projects. And that's really what we want to do, is make it a campus feel, so you have related businesses in there. In Rockledge, if you haven't been there, it's just a city.
You really
by
need to
itself.
go through and have classes in there
Yeah,
for different things, and just, it'll blow you away if you haven't been in it. We're doing an expansion on it now.
Yeah.
So if the drone idea comes to fruition, will there need to be an airport overlay done again?
no. Because right now, we're working all the way up on the federal level, so that drones aren't being classified right now currently as aircraft. So the airport zoning goes away, which from day one made this such an attractive location for this, because it was an airport zone for a while. But it's outside of the service areas of the surrounding airports.
Right. Yeah, we did have an airport zoning ordinance.
Mark, is the reason why we don't, you're saying that the laws are, the ordinances, I guess you said, are saying that we can't have residential in that area, but we can have a hotel in that area. Is that because of some kind of residual EPA things from McGinnis Airport at some point in history?
Yeah, and just so we're all clear, nothing horrible, nasty, terrible was found out there. The three worst contaminants that we found, one was they had underground fuel tanks and heating oil tanks, which they all leak a little bit, that's normal. We've had monitoring wells out there, it has now met DEP standards for, again, non-residential use out there. There was a spot in the middle of one runway, the northern runway, if you will, that had a high level of arsenic in it. Very high possibility that this is naturally occurring in the either what was placed there as fill material or in the bedrock. And the other one was high levels of lead was found, and that's over on the far end of the southern runway at the old pickle property. And And that's all because they took the buildings and shoved them into the basement, and the lead has come out from the lead paint and things. That's all that's been found out there. And it's been poked and prodded twice now. There were 2 studies back in 2017, and then the one we did with ECS now. So there's been nothing found that's of great concern. It's just everything that we did was to meet non-residential standards for development. So on the principal use list that we have there, I know that we had highlighted some of the residential ones. I would suggest we don't change those and leave them the way they stand today. In the industrial section, there's a lot of potential uses. I wouldn't really go into adjusting those too much. We want to leave flexibility in here for what's may possibly come down the road. There's been, we've talked over the years of several different directions that this thing could go. Height-wise, we're good. I don't see a lot of changes needed in the use table at all.
No.
Just your highlighter.
Yeah. So again, I feel like we're very close. I think these minor tweaks, unless there's something else that you guys are saying that we didn't catch, I think it's good.
So you would want to keep that note 5 within the light business district, no retail establishment shall exceed a total floor area of 10,000 square feet.
Fine.
That's okay?
Yeah, I don't see us ever going above that.
So we would be looking at parking lot as principal use being a permitted use.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally under this.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then I think the requests on the setbacks are totally understandable. And the building coverage. Because a big part of what you're going to be doing out there is stormwater management with what you will be putting in out there.
Yeah, Mary and I had this conversation before the meeting started. Stormwater is going to be a big issue out there. That site captures a whole lot of off-site water that comes down from almost Medical Road. That whole drainage basin comes down, comes right across Lancaster Avenue, and right down to that corner. One of the most interesting things that I found in some of the historical stuff that we've been doing on there is in the back of some of those properties, it's a runoff dead end, for lack of a better term. It ponds and it just sits there, and there's a concrete pipe that runs from where the house and the shop used to be in that little.
Off Manor, where the flower shop was.
Yeah, and then up farther. There's pipes that, yeah, there's pipes that go under. Yeah, we went to the other side. This is where Derek and I just probably need some mental health checkups now and then. Is when it's pouring down rain, we get all giddy and run outside. Everyone else runs in. We're like, this is awesome. So you out there and the other end of the pipe is dry, there's nothing coming out of it. I'm like, okay, this is not working properly. When we did the archaeological studies, they found the old maps, and one of them showed the old stream that came right down through the property. And we found an old newspaper article from LNP back years ago, I guess it was New Era back then, whatever it was. And Mr. McGinnis was actually quoted saying, you know, fortunately we took care of that pesky waterway that ran through our property and we got rid of it.
There's still,
Interesting.
Eric made a comment down as to Steiner's property.
Yes.
There's still kind of an outlet for it.
Yeah.
Mr. Steiner's property is gone, right?
One thing I absolutely love about geology and hydrology and soils is water goes where it wants to. We think we can control it. We think we can tell it where to go. When I was the manager in Manheim, the Chickens comes down around the southern part of Manheim right there. The angle where it comes in, and there's a bunch of car dealerships there. It kept flooding, and we have all these problems. When we dug into it, kept looking and looking and looking, and realized finally that to get more land, they took the string and they shoved it south. Well, that's fine on the surface. Underground, it's still where it wants to be. And so when the ground and everything pressures goes up, it still floods right, and it's going, hey, I'm still here, haven't left. You know, water goes where it wants to go. So one of the things that is a big goal of ours, and it's not cheap, but it's the right thing to do, is to get the natural water flow back to where it's supposed to go. So stormwater is going to be a big effort there. The property that we purchased off of South 9th Street, it's technically 700 Franklin Street. That's where the outfall comes out underneath the runways there, and then it flows down and comes out at the end there by the Steiner property near Plain Street. There's going to be a large stormwater facility right there to capture all that. And then another smaller one there down by the Steiner where it comes out and naturally flows out to the river. Over on South 12th, that whole piece over there, Mary can tell you we've been out there digging and poking and prodding, and we think we finally found the old manhole. This is a great story. It's underneath about a 60, 70-year-old locust tree. It's been there that long, we couldn't find it. The reason we can't find it is the tree grew up on top of it and it's blocking the manhole cover.
Because over the years.
Over the years, they kept pushing the dirt over. And
My familiarity with this is that my husband's home is at 12th and Franklin Street. My daughter now lives there. So she is bounded on the west side and the south side by the McGinnis Airfield. And over the years, he kept pushing that airfield. And that's how this tree came about growing. It was put in the mid-50s. Yeah. And in that time, that tree he pushed that much over and the tree grew up. So.
Yeah, anytime you can make the water, or allow the water to go the way it naturally wants to go, and you're not fighting it, that would work better.
I feel that these suggested changes are reasonable. I don't see that they would cause any adverse conditions for the neighboring properties. And did I understand here that you did not want to change the residential?
Correct.
Those would stay, they would still be no. And that was in the tables, but the one thing you would change in the tables is back in the industrial, that the parking lot as principal use would be allowed. And with the setbacks, with what is being anticipated out there, I feel that reasonable, I think their setbacks just would be a bit onerous for what is looking to be developed out there. And I feel that the maximum building coverage what would you look at that being increased from to? Increased from 40%.
It's 40% now, we were looking at going to 70.
Okay, would you then do anything with the impervious, the amount of impervious, which is at 85%? That would stay?
Yeah. I think we're still good
So
there.
you would be looking at the maximum building going to 50? It's at 40 now.
If we take the maximum building coverage, you can go up to 70%. It's one of those things that if, like down here at the bottom of Oak Street, you make the ground floor parking, your building, technical building coverage is still high, but you're still meeting the other criteria. So I'm good to go higher if they can design-wise meet that standard. The 70 and then 85% total impervious area sounds like there could be a potential conflict, but I think it's done right. It gives the opportunity for some creative design. If somebody wants to take a more standard design style, then that's fine. You just want to create the ability for creative design flexibility.
I would feel comfortable making a motion to recommend approval of these changes. I know you said you didn't need action tonight, but I think we're all in agreement, it seems.
And this will be put into an ordinance form and come back to you guys and wait for formal review.
Okay,
Just-
that's fine.
Just a comment on that would be recommended denial of an ordinance before, because we wanted to make, if we were gonna make that, so we're gonna make it part one, take overall action.
I think our issue with this particular one is that the development of that property will be held up by delaying these changes. And I think ordinance 929, we're looking at that more holistically out there, that there will be other changes made out there and in adjoining areas. Whereas with this is, as Mark said, these changes will direct the subdivision.
Sure, I
And
see
that's
that.
what's,
I'm just curious if Mark was not asking for action tonight, why we're rushing into it tonight when we're talking about making other changes to other things.
I was only saying that you don't need action tonight because it'll look feedback so we can actually put the ordinance together and bring it back to you. We are intending to move this forward.
Gotcha. So do we want to wait to let them put the ordinance together before we vote on it?
well, I think what they're looking for us is to make that motion to proceed with putting that ordinance together.
That I'm comfortable with, yeah.
Okay?
Because now without making these changes, Mark, they can move forward with the project, get the changing of the ordinance.
To be clear, we could move forward with the language as written. It just wouldn't be as beneficial and functional as we think these tweaks to it will allow us to do.
So we're voting to essentially allow Mark to move forward with an ordinance change.
Right.
Then
The ordinance comes back to us, yes.
that's okay, yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
I'll second your motion, Mayor.
so we have another Tiffany Brad motion for tonight.
Well, Justin's not here, so I get.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what we are motioning here is to recommend the formulating of an ordinance to reflect the changes recommended for the McGinnis redevelopment. Does that sound right? Such ordinance to come back to planning.
See it soon.
Okay, so that is the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
You talk about the Tiffany Brad connection. My 12-year-old kid comes out when we're at a council meeting, and Barb Fisher makes a motion, and Joanne seconds it. I crack up every time. So motion by Fisher and second by Price. I'm like, Fisher Price, that's hilarious.
And now I think this next item here, Nathan, is where that ordinance 929 falls into. Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, are you following me there? You know, it's not that we're saying that doesn't need to be addressed. It's,
Yeah, no,
that's an ordinance that's been hanging out there.
I understand.
Okay? And I think this is what we discussed with Jess at the last meeting in December, and she has made the different comments. She has actually added some comments here that what our discussion was on these different issues.
Make the colors a little better to
Yeah.
differentiate.
And I really think we need a session just to decide what are we doing here.
That would be great.
And I would like to, this is February, we get copies of our comp plan, and once we have those, to really dig into this. So I would be looking at April to bring this back. Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay.
And I'll see, I'll make sure Justin's available that night. She can come and help lead that, because she's really the brain behind a lot of it.
Yeah, yes, she has. And then I think at the same time, under old business, she had included in our packet for January, parking policy. And I think that's another thing we need to look into. I know Jess feels that that parking study that was done several years ago should have been done during the summer months. When you have, I'm just throwing this out there. And in between our December meeting and this meeting, Jess and I actually attended a Lancaster County Planning Commission webinar that had to do with parking. And the persons presenting were from St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, Traverse City, Michigan, and the Lewiston, Auburn area of Maine. And there are a number of these places that have totally taken no parking minimums out of a number of their zoning districts. St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, it's 92 square miles. It's a kind of a rural, 13,000 residents. And in 2006, they actually went to no parking minimum in their downtown. And what really pushed that, they said, was the number of zoning hearings they were having for exemptions and variances to it. And they finally did away with that. They felt that developers had the best data on the parking needs of their developments. And that for the municipality to set those standards was making it more difficult for them to develop. That was St. Mary's. The guy from up in Maine, one of the things they did was they encouraged infill parking and shared parking. Where that if, like you had an apartment complex where It was mainly used overnight by the residents. But during the day, when that was vacant, it could be shared for other uses. I know Jessica took a lot more notes than I did. They have, in Maine, they eliminated commercial parking requirements. And one of the things they were pushing in Maine was public transit to help to cut down on the amount of parking needed. A guy from Traverse City, Michigan, a lot of the people, 10% of the dwellings, the people didn't have vehicles. They eliminated the minimum in downtown, parking garages, public-private parking, bike parking, smaller spaces, and eliminate curb cuts. Eliminated residential parking requirements, but they prohibited overnight street parking year-round for sweeping in Michigan. That just shocked me when they're sweeping year-round in Michigan. So these were the city also plows the sidewalks in the downtown.
So a lot of cities have gone to a street maintenance schedule.
Yeah, mid-block crossings, those were things that they did in Michigan.
Yeah, so up in Michigan, I'm sure they do the same thing that we look at here, and that is
Yeah.
street maintenance on this side. It's Monday. It could be street sweeping, it could be snow plowing, it could be whatever, but you do maintenance, and you keep it year round, so that you don't have to say, is there a restriction on, are we sweeping the streets now, has it canceled? No, it's year round, and we always have the right
That's
to
what our
sweep.
signs say.
It does.
Well, I like the fact that I don't have to move the car. However, I do see the amount of trash that's starting to build
Filthy.
on our street alone, across the street. It was all mom and pop when Tiffany was growing up. It's all rentals now. It's all trash in the street. And that won't be picked up or anything like that.
Right, we don't have street sweeping everywhere in town.
Not in the winter.
It's not-
It stops and then picks back up again in the spring.
What, like Marshall?
He's still doing
Marshall
it.
Letter?
Yeah, I think so.
Everybody on our block is.
Somebody.
Somebody.
Yeah, it stops until around March.
Yeah.
Now, there are times now when, if the weather's good, Jake will get it out and just do the best he can. He did that, I don't know, a week and a half
A
ago.
couple weeks ago, I saw
I
it.
And the amount of trash that was picked up
It's
was
horrible.
Amazing.
horrible. It's just tonnage of waste
Oh,
that's been
it's
picked up.
terrible.
And when you're up around the park, the amount of leaves that are still
Yeah,
up there. And now the snow piles got thrown back on the pavement, now it's all on the pavement. You know, but it is what it is with the leaves, so. I worked over the weekend on my yearly report that I need to make to council. My color died on me, so I would like you to look over these. If you have any comments, I am not ready to present this to council. And once any commission reviews it, I will have a copy down. It's my yearly report that I'm doing. Okay. And do we have any citizen comments tonight? Okay. Then there's a couple goodbyes to say tonight. The most recent goodbye we heard is from Annette.
Yes, we're moving. Oh, yes, okay.
So I am not only losing a neighbor.
Yeah. Thank you.
When do you move? Thank you for all your service.
Well, we already got the house, so we put ours on the market. Gradually moving, yes.
This is another case of moving to grand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I believe you all know that this is Deb's last
Yeah.
meeting with us.
Yeah. It'll be
And
greatly missed.
I can't believe that. And you will be truly missed.
Thank you.
Your input and your knowledge of this borough, what is being lost when you walk out that door. I don't think, they will realize in the first couple of weeks when they can't find things. So
Thank you.
I am very much going to miss you.
I wish you guys too. My favorite board.
That's what she told me.
Not a lot of drama here.
Yeah. Very informal.
We were
So
actually at a Super Bowl party and she came up and told me and she said, "You are my favorite board." She said,
mhm.
"You are the best to work with."
Yep.
And you were the best for us.
Many years.
How many years?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I remember you saying, I think it was 4 years ago, you said I got 2 more years. So you extended it 2 more years for us.
Yeah, a little bit further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then she told me she was going to go till later in this year.
Yeah.
And then she comes up and tells me I'm done in the end of this month.
Oh, it was time. So.
I hope to see you when I'm walking.
Oh, you will. You will.
I would run into Deb quite a bit. Every now and then, the girls from the office, when they take their break, they would walk down and I'd run into you. I used to run into Beth.
Mm-hmm.
What's amazing is people who have left the borough or any of these commissions, I haven't seen any of them anymore. Like Jeff Howe, I have not seen him once. Not once since his last meeting.
I don't see him much either, but I think
At
he's
all.
thoroughly enjoying being a grandfather. I think he
Yeah.
spends a lot of time.
Is he traveling?
I don't
haven't
know.
seen him.
He wasn't much of a traveler.
Yeah.
So.
He does go to church on
He was the National Night Out last year.
Yeah, he was at the night out.
That's the last time I saw him.
Yeah. I see him on occasion in church. So.
Thank you so much for all that you've done.
Yeah.
Thank
You're welcome. It
I
was,
said
it
it all
was
in my.
thoroughly enjoyable. It really was.
It's not going to be the same, Deb. Deb keeps me straight with my agendas. I come in here to set up the meetings and she hands me this. She says, "Is this okay?" Yes, it's fine. It's great. So Deb makes me look good. She really does. So, any further discussion, anything for this evening? Do you have anything more? Paula?
I just want to say to Annette, do not sell unless it's been on. Sorry, it's my job, and I do really feel that way, so.
Well, that's part of the issue is the house next to her
Yeah.
is not, so. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, Annette, do you want to make a motion for your final? Do you want a second?
I will second.
Okay, I have Tiff and Annette, and we are all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned at 8:00.